Right, today we got one of my favorite beer styles that I don't drink nearly often enough. It is a West Coast IPA. These beers were massive back in the day in the noughties. They kind of took over the scene. There was a big craft boom, and they came in with their big American flavors with all of those now classic American hops. And these days, IPAs are mainly kind of hazies, New England style. They're much more kind of tropical, soft, juicy kind of flavors, whereas West Coast IPAs are all about big grapefruit, citrus, pine, resin, and also dankness, like the weed dankness that you'd associate with the old puff. Um, and also very, very bitter. So the hazy craze these days, everything's kind of end of boil hop stand. You do get some bitterness, but it's nowhere near of the bite and the high IBUs that you used to get in West Coast IPAs. And there was even kind of like breweries trying to outgun each other as how high IBUs they could get. So yeah, it got a bit silly at one point. Someone were like, "Oh, this is 100 IBU IPA, which is just like insane. Like your whole mouth feels like you've got a screw face." But yeah, anyway, this one is from Elusive Brewing in the UK. So it's a UK brewery brewing an American West Coast IPA. And it's actually won the World Beer Awards 2021. And it was the United Kingdom winner. So it's going to be a good beer. Reading on the label, it's classically styled West Coast IPA with Simcoe, Chinook, and Columbus. These are very, very, like I said, now classic American West Coast hops. These are going to produce big citrus, grapefruit, resin, and pine. I think coming from Chinook and Columbus, dankness coming from Columbus. Simcoe is kind of similar a bit to citrus. That's going to be a bit more kind of citrusy kind of flavors, a bit more grapefruit and that kind of stuff. Maybe a touch of like apricot and stuff. So there is that fruity element to this West Coast from Simcoe, and then Chinook and Columbus are your classic spicy, maybe a bit herbal, pine, dank, resin kind of stuff. It's coming in at 5.8%, so decent amount. It's going to be a good West Coast IPA, I imagine. Let's crack it open and see why this won the best beer in the United Kingdom in 2021. All right, you sniff. So a big, beautiful kind of citrus aroma coming off that. Nice little bit of sweetness. Little bit kind of piney and resiny, but mainly dominated by a citrus kind of aroma. Not quite clear, slightly darker on the color. Of course, Westies do use your kind of crystal malts. So let's see how it's tasting. Yeah, very nice, very nice, and yeah, just my brain re-engaging the high bitterness. Not used to it. I haven't had a Westie for a while, even though I do love the style. So yeah, decent level of bitterness on that, but it's not too sharp. It's not too extreme. It is just bang on the style, enough to give your mouth a little party. Yeah, so decent amount of kind of grapefruit bite there, mixed in with that kind of citrusness that was coming with the aroma. That'll be the Simcoe. And then there's a nice amount of kind of resiny, herbal kind of note, but it's not so prominent. It's kind of in the background. The malt is actually a little bit lighter than I was expecting, but it's nice. It's got a good sweetness. There is that level of kind of crystal malt, so a little bit of caramel going on, but it's not dominating, and it's allowing that kind of citrus forward hop notes to shine, the bitterness to come through. That's what people are drinking a West Coast for. So your malt bill is kind of like a canvas that those hops really sing into, and they are the kind of the star of the show. A little bit like in the modern day hazies, although you're using a lot of different malts to get that kind of haziness, you are painting a kind of creamy, silky, kind of blank canvas, and then the big tropical notes can sing on from the hops. And this is similar in that sense. So it's not too deep caramel, but the caramel is there enough. There is enough kind of sweetness to balance out that high IBU. Yeah, really nice beer. Really nice beer. You can see why this won an award at the World Beer Awards in 2021. Yeah, you can tell like their water chemistry is really great. So they've dialed it in to allow those hops to really be bright, and the bitterness to be the dominant kind of part of this beer. But they kept just enough in terms of maltiness that it's not flabby, it's not kind of too flat on that malt side. There is that kind of amount of sweetness, enough body there for this to really shine as a beer, which is really great. And that's a difficult part of brewing IPAs is getting enough body and sweetness and mouthfeel in there without it dominating, and allowing that bitterness and the hops to really be bright and shine and run the show. So they've kind of really quite nailed that on this beer. Pour out some more. I picked this up from the malt miller, the indie beer shop malt miller. I quite like the can. It's quite a cool design. It reminds me of I'm old enough to be a kind of Nintendo player, and this kind of reminds me of that kind of game, a Nintendo, a NES or a SNES kind of game, 2D, a little bit blocky, jumping characters going across the screen. That's what it reminds me of, which is pretty cool. And the Oregon Trail is obviously like a famous way out west kind of thing. So pretty cool branding on this. Quite like the design. I don't think I've had much at all from Elusive Brewing. I've definitely heard of them, but not drunk much. Um, I'm just looking at the ingredients here. So water, barley, rye, hops, and yeast. And so yeah, that rye is what's coming through. I think that's how they're achieving that kind of decent mouthfeel. You got a very good head on this. You see the retention on that. It's very good. So I think rye is a little bit of a you know it's not a secret. It's an open secret on some of these IPAs. Throw a bit of rye in there. Really does wonders in that malt bill, in terms of mouthfeel and body and retention. So yeah, really great beer. Well worth. Um, even if you're into your hazies and stuff, I'd say as a West Coast, this isn't going to blow your head off, and it's actually quite a good opening into West Coast IPAs. It's not too kind of commercial or like soft or whatever. It does give you the little gut punch that we love from drinking West Coast IPAs, but it is still, very approachable as a beer. For people that perhaps have never tried this or aren't sure about West Coast, this would be a nice start. It's very well made. It's beautiful. It's a gulper for sure, but it's not one of the crazy ones. It's not like you know like an angry bastard level of high IBUs or whatever. It's not a Stone. What's that one? It's not a Stone Brewing Company kind of. You couldn't you don't know what to do with yourself after you have one sip kind of IPA. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Yeah, you know what? I think juicy hazy IPAs, New England styles, hazy pale ales have been really great in recent years at bringing new people into craft beer. They're much more approachable beers. I think you get a lot more people who wouldn't normally drink beers try them and think, oh, wow, yeah, that's nice, because they're very juicy. They're not bitter. They're kind of soft, sometimes a bit creamy, like really kind of nice drinks just in general. So it's almost some of them are almost like drinking a cocktail or something, like a citrusy tropical kind of cocktail. It's how good some of them have got in terms of that juiciness. Um, but there's still definitely a place in your fridge for a West Coast IPA. I do love a Westie. I drank a lot of them a long time ago, not so much in recent times, but a beer like this reminds me why I loved West Coast IPAs. So this is a good reminder for me, and I probably might now go on a bit of a West Coast IPA binge after this, and you know that's a testament to this beer. It's that good. It's sparked my brain into remembering what I loved about those beers. I love that kind of dank citrus pine resin that you get in this. It is just a really, really great experience in a glass. Some of them went too far, and they kind of out danked each other, they out bitterness each other, or whatever. But back in the heyday when they were just all about making really, really great West Coast IPAs that kind of sat in a nice kind of band of not too bitter, but bitter, decent amount of dank, piney resinous, and then just a really great citrusy, grapefruity fruit punch right there. And then you had a nice kind of body and mouthfeel that wasn't too light, or wasn't too thin, but also wasn't too cloying or much. And this very much sits in that kind of golden era of West Coast IPAs. They've done a great job of meeting that standard. So, Elusive Brewing, West Coast IPA, well worth picking up. Very good Westie. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this glass. Cheers.